Good morning, Internet. We are live. This will be my last show of the week leading up to the weekend, and I will continue my pivot to exposing the education system and more importantly, empowering people to take control of their child's education. Sorry, give me 1 second. There you go. Sounds much better. More importantly, to take control of their child's education so that they feel empowered and they can make sure that their children grow up to live independent lives, that they're confident and they know how to navigate in the world and be successful. Because if there's one thing we all agree on, whether that's the left side of the political spectrum, the right side of the political spectrum, it's that the current education system is broken. People might disagree with how to fix it, but it is the one topic that everyone agrees needs addressing. And what is really disturbing is the lack of public conversation about the broken education system, because we will always hear empty platitudes. Our children are the future. Well, if our children are the future, and we all agree that the education system is broken, then why is nothing being done about it? It's time we as parents make change at the grassroots level. And that starts with making changes in your home. The problem is people don't know how to start. People don't know where to start. Well, my suggestion is to start here. So, a quick recap. 2 days ago, I posted a video, if you haven't watched it, discussing Kylie Jenner. She was announced to be the youngest billionaire, not just in the world, but the youngest billionaire in the history of the world. Now, it's easy to look at someone like Kylie Jenner and say, look at all of her character flaws, look at the Kardashians, they're materialistic, they're vain, they're all of the things that the Kardashians clearly are. But that is an exercise in futility. What I prefer to do is to look at what they're doing right. Why is it that they're able to generate so much income, be successful at the level they are, and not just Kris Jenner, not just Kim Kardashian, not just Khloe Jenner, not just Kendall Jenner, not just Kylie Jenner. Each and every one of them has found varying degrees of immense personal success. What is it that they do? And I broke down Kylie Jenner as the example. And what I explained is she has something that the school system doesn't teach. She has what I call a talent stack. Now, a talent stack is a grouping of talents that all successful people have. Now, they might be different, but any successful person you look at, you will say, okay, well, they have a number of skills that allows them to be successful. Well, you look at 18-year-olds who graduate from high school. Do most 18-year-olds have a skill set that allows them to flourish in a free market? I don't think that's the case. Most 18-year-olds can't balance a checkbook. Most 18-year-olds don't know how to properly use a credit card. They certainly don't know the difference between an asset and a liability. They know they like material. They know they like materialism. Have 18-year-olds created things with their mind, created things with their hands? Have they brought their own products to market? Have they incorporated? Have they ever published a book? Have they done any of these things that, for example, Ben Franklin, by the time he was 13 years old, was the editor of a statewide newspaper? Thomas Jefferson, at 12 years old, took over and was running on his own his family's plantation. We have been schooled stupid. We have been left in a state of extended adolescence our childhoods are being extended. And this is why, in the modern world, 25-year-olds are at times indistinguishable from 15-year-olds. I don't know if 15-year-olds act 25 or if 25-year-olds act 15. But what I do know is that all people, well, not all people, but a large majority of people 25 and under act immature. So when I talked about Kylie Jenner, I talked about how the Kardashians and the Jenners, they all have certain talent stacks. Yes, they're beautiful girls. Those are a dime a dozen. But they're all really good at marketing. They're great at social media marketing. You don't think that's a skill? You think that's easy? If it was easy, everyone would do it because there's a lot of money in it. That's a real skill. They're beautiful. They're good at social media marketing. I'm sure they discuss it a lot as a family. I'm sure they have their whole lives. They are good at negotiating. They negotiated their show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They were able to keep control. They negotiate with businesses who make their apps, who make their clothing lines, who make their cosmetic lines. And they negotiate so that they're able to keep a high percentage of the income so that Kylie Jenner could become a billionaire faster than anyone in the history of the world. And the talents that they have go on and on. So we as parents can look at that and say, all right, we want to create talent stacks within our children. On my show yesterday, I talked about a new book that came out that it's eluding me. I think it's The Habits of the Rich, in which the author was stunned to find out that only 21% of the millionaires that he had researched were, not all the millionaires in the world, but the ones he had researched, were A students. In fact, most millionaires he found were C students. Robert Kiyosaki actually wrote a book about this. He's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one of the books that he wrote was titled, Why A Students Work for C Students. But the author also came to a similar conclusion, even though he worded it in a different way. That people that are entrepreneurs, people that are millionaires, generally have certain characteristics that are different from the average population. And what he was basically saying is that these people have talent stacks. These people have certain combinations of skills not taught in the school system that allow them to be immensely successful. And in the end, as parents, what we want is to empower our children to grow up independently and confidently so that they can have what they want in life without having to rely on any other person. And then, of course, interweaving in that, there's morality and ethics and many other things. But in terms of the skills we want our children to have, we want them to be independent. But the problem is the school system is not helping children to do that. People are graduating high school at 18 years old and they can't perform the simplest of tasks. They can't even fill out a resume and get a job. So we hear the public discourse when there is public discourse, and there's not nearly enough. And the conversation generally will focus around what? Well, what we really need to do is provide schools more funding. Well, the problem with that is, if you track the funding, school funding has gone up for the last half a century. School funding goes up and up and up and up, and American academic performance goes down, 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 and down. And even with that being said, we already established that most millionaires were not A students. So don't conflate academic performance with actual success in the real world. But the school system, with the objective of academic performance, can't even hit that basic goal. Okay, so maybe the problem's not the funding. The problem must be the curriculum. Well, why don't we implement No Child Left Behind? Oh, a few years have gone by and everyone agrees that No Child Left Behind is a complete and utter failure? Don't worry, we have a new education czar. Let's implement the Common Core system. Have any of you worked with the Common Core? Have you taught your children the Common Core? Another complete and utter failure. And the overwhelming majority of people agree it's a failure. Where is the public conversation? I thought that children are our future. It's almost as if the school system is achieving its objective. It's just not the objective that we as parents are told. So it's not the funding, it's not the curriculum, maybe it's the teachers. The problem is American academic performance has been faltering for so long, for decade after decade after decade after decade, that generations of teachers have been hired, have retired, and new generations of teachers have been hired. Now, has the academic performance gone up? It's gone down. And that's with these new generations of teachers being taught in the universities the most well-studied think tank methods of bringing education to the modern student. But in spite of all this study, in spite of all these studies, in spite of all of this professional training, the academic performance of students goes down and down and down and down. And again, I want to stress the point to not conflate high academic performance with success in life, because many people who were A students go out into the world and they put their resume out, and that's nice. They're able to get a job and they start at $40,000, $50,000 a year. The problem is they have $100,000 of student loan debt and they don't have any actual real world tangible skills. They just have a piece of paper, basically a license from the government saying your child can work in this field. And between their student loan debts and then they take out a mortgage, they become subservient. They become a type of slave to paying off their debt for the next 30 years, probably for the rest of their lives. This is when they're A students, and this is not the lives we want for our children. So where is the education system going wrong? Where is it failing us? Well, yesterday I brought up the example of an assignment in which you have your child, and this was just an example, build a wood rack. And in building a wood rack, they would engage in feedback-based learning, and they would be forced to engage in critical thinking. Now, compare that with what the school system does. In a classroom, a teacher sits in front of a teacher who lectures. The teacher gives them certain information, or the textbook gives them certain information. They're expected to memorize that information and recite it back, and if they do, they're given praise in the form of a high grade or direct praise from their teacher. And the two skills that they learn in the school system are some useful information that has been memorized. It's good to have memorized some useful information. Give it, some of it could be wrong. The student doesn't know. They're just memorizing what they're told to memorize. And the ability to memorize itself. If you practice it over and over again, you will certainly get better at memorizing information. Is that the skill that empowers people to be successful in the real world? To start a business, to be independent? You tell me. Take a child with an assignment to build a wood rack. They have to go online and do research. What do wood racks look like? What are the different options of building wood racks? What materials do I need? Where do I get those materials? Is your child 12 years old? They should be old enough to go down to Home Depot themselves and interact with the workers there and purchase all of the materials needed to build that wood rack. They come back and they start building the wood rack on their time. And they will be the ones who determine if the wood rack has been built properly. Not a teacher giving them a grade, but their own pride in the work that they're doing. And with that, they have to figure out where to start, how to make sure the wood rack is level, how to make sure it's standing at a 90-degree angle, how to make sure the nails drive in. Oh, did you buy the wrong screws? There's feedback for you. Go back to Home Depot, get the right screws, and start over again. Maybe you have to drill through two 2x4s and you didn't think, or you have to put a screw through two different 2x4s and you didn't think of that. Problem solving. Do you need a 6-inch screw? Or Do you drill a hole halfway through one 2x4 and then put the screw in that hole and drill it the rest of the way through? Critical thinking. Put the rack together, grade your own work. Have the pride of filling that rack with firewood. Maybe you challenge your child a little more. Can you sell this? Can you market it on Facebook? Bring it to market and sell it for profit. And by the way, you can keep the profit. Which child is engaging in critical thinking? The child reciting information back to their school teacher, or the child building the wood rack? Which child is getting real-world experience? The child who completes their work at the end of a 45-minute period and throws it out because it doesn't mean anything. It's an exercise in futility. Or the child bringing their work to the open market and selling it for money. One child is engaging in critical thinking. One child is getting real-world experience, understanding the power of their mind in the real world, while the other child is doing work that is completely out of context, that's not actually developing any sort of talent stack. The only talent being developed is the ability to memorize and recite. But our child engaging in feedback-based learning, they are learning how to do research. They are learning how to interact with people in the real world. They are learning how to build with their hands. This time it's a wood rack. Next time you have them build a shed in the backyard. Don't be surprised when they're 22 years old when they come home and say, "Mom and Dad, I decided to flip a house." Because they'll have the confidence to know that they can do work on their own and they can make sure that that house is in good shape and they can flip that house. This is how entrepreneurs are made, and this is how independent people are created, through feedback-based learning. But today I'm going to take it a step further. By the way, if you could please share this link, and if you could please follow my other channels at Classical Learner on YouTube, because before long I will only be posting at Classical Learner on YouTube. And also follow my page, Classical Learner, on Facebook. I am slow building it, so I'm not posting a lot on it right now, but over time it is going to become a community in which people can post what they're doing academically with their children outside of the school system, and parents can lean on one another so that they can implement strategies in their children's everyday lives to make sure that their children do develop these talent stacks that I've spoken to you about. So please follow my other pages. I will also be posting articles that I've been writing on Facebook. I write them on Steemit. I post them on Facebook. Please follow so you can get access to those articles. And of course, I am working on my book on the broken education system and homeschooling. Now, this brings me to the scenario I wanted to bring up today, because the school system certainly does focus on academic performance. Again, I stress the importance. Do not conflate academic performance with success in the real world. Just because you're an A student doesn't mean you'll ever be an independent adult. As I mentioned, 21% of the millionaires studied in the book I spoke about just yesterday were A students. And Robert Kiyosaki actually wrote a book on this topic, on how most successful entrepreneurs were actually C students. It was their rejecting of the school system that allowed them to flourish in the real world. But that being said, people want to fix the broken education system, and here's why they can't do it. I'm going to take a hypothetical scenario. We have two children. One child attends public school, and the other child is a homeschooled student. So let's take child A, Tommy. Tommy attends public school, and he just entered the 6th grade. But unfortunately for Tommy, he really struggled with his 5th grade reading comprehension. And he never mastered 5th grade literacy. So whenever he gets a book at the 5th grade level, he struggles. He mastered 4th grade, but not 5th grade. And now he's in 6th grade. And the class, they're not going to slow down for Tommy. So when he's in class, they're now giving him 6th grade material. but he hasn't even mastered 5th grade. He's reading at a 4th grade level. So he's reading 6th grade material, and Tommy doesn't get it. He doesn't comprehend it the way we would want him to. And now, on top of him not comprehending what he's reading, the teacher says, Tommy, I want you to read pages 5 through 8 in front of the class. And Tommy knows that he's really struggling to read. So he goes to read in front of the class, and Tommy gets really embarrassed. And now, at the 6th grade age, Tommy develops an aversive relationship to reading. So now when he gets future reading assignments, Tommy doesn't want to do it. How many students by the time they get to high school don't read? They go on Spark Notes to do their reading. And the children that read their books and want to talk about them, what do they get labeled as? Nerds. This is a defense mechanism from all of the children that have been left behind. So they create a culture in which it's cool not to read. Because once these children develop an aversive relationship to reading, they no longer want to do it. School destroys the joy, the natural curiosity that goes into learning, because the classroom can't wait for Tommy. The classroom's going to go ahead. And this is the fate of child after child. And because of that, Tommy, because he was only reading at a 4th grade level by the time he got into 6th grade, he developed an aversive relationship to reading. Tommy is never going to be a master reader. Not in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, college, not when he's an adult. Because like most adults in our society, Tommy is not going to read books. Imagine having a school system which compels everyone in our society to attend, and then having a society with an overwhelming majority of citizens who don't read books on a daily basis. I've already completed 2 books this year. I'm almost done with my 3rd. Imagine that. Now take child B. Child B, Jonathan. Jonathan is homeschooled. And when Jonathan gets to the 6th grade age, he also hadn't yet mastered the 5th grade reading material. He had worked on it, but he was just having a hard time with it. And now he's at the 6th grade age. Jonathan is not forced to go ahead and start working with 6th grade material. Jonathan's mother tells him, I want you to read another book that's at the 5th grade level. And I want you to continue to work on that book. And after you read the book, I want you to write me a paper discussing what you learned in the book. And we'll review the paper together, and I'll ask you what you think you did right, what you think you did wrong. And we'll go over the grammar, what is a noun, what is a verb, what the meaning of words are. And we'll continue to work on the 5th grade level reading until it has been mastered, because we're not in a rush. We don't have to keep up with the class. Jonathan will eventually master 5th grade reading. In fact, it probably won't take long. And then once that happens, you could, at his pace, move to the 6th grade reading material. The 5th grade material will be mastered. The 6th grade material will move at Johnny's. This is child's pace learning. The 6th grade material will be mastered because Johnny will work at his pace. He won't have to move up to 7th grade material until he masters the 6th grade material, which, by the way, he will continue to enjoy reading, and over time he'll start to master that material faster and faster and faster. And it won't be long before Johnny's in 8th grade and he's probably reading at an 11th or 12th grade level. Johnny, when he's an adult, which is what matters by the time he's 18, no matter how long it takes, will achieve mastery level reading comprehension, mastery level literacy, mastery level grammar, because everything is done at his pace. That is what the school system takes away. Child A, Tommy, is public schooled. He falls behind, develops an aversive relationship to reading, doesn't keep up with his classmates, and he never reads again. It's interesting. My father, he's not deep about this stuff, but that's basically what he described to me happened to him. Child B, Johnny, he reads at his own pace. The pressure's taking off. The only thing that matters is not the time in which he masters it, but that he masters it, will master reading, will not have an aversive relationship to it, and will excel by the time he's 18 years old. Will be a master reader and will enjoy reading books. And that is invaluable. For anyone that reads a lot of books, they know that's invaluable. How do you think I figured all this stuff out? Please follow my other pages. Again, eventually I'm only going to post on Classical Learner. So now I want to take you to the second scenario, because this is just as important, right? Take Johnny, child A, our public school student, right? Johnny is, let's say he's in, second or third grade math. This is when Johnny was in second or third grade math. I'm jumping grades, but it just makes the examples easier for me. And his class is introduced to addition and subtraction problems. I believe that's when they're introduced. And after just one day, Tommy, our public school student, is a master of addition and subtraction. He gets this. Thank you, Joan. I really appreciate that. He gets it, and they gave him the problems. They said, "Hey, Tommy, what's 5 plus 7?" And he says, 12. What's 8 minus 6? 2. He gets it right off the bat. And he says, all right, what's next? I'm ready for multiplication. I'm ready for division. And the teacher says, no, Tommy. You don't do multiplication and division. You have to do what your classmates are doing. So now, Tommy has to sit in that classroom for the next 2 months working on basic addition and subtraction when he mastered it in one day. Very quickly, because you're forcing him to sit in that classroom all day, every day, this will become very boring to Tommy. And he will develop a relationship with learning learning is boring. I don't like to do it. School destroys children's natural curiosity. Whether they fall behind or whether they're ahead. Either way, their schooling destroys their curiosity. We as parents have to recognize there is a major difference between schooling and education. Schooling is the process of being indoctrinated. Education is the process of following your own curiosity and seeking out truth in a very confusing world. So over time, the next 2 months, Johnny sits there and he decides school is boring. And the next thing you know, you're getting calls from the teacher that he doesn't pay attention and he's distracting the class. And all he wants to do is talk with his friends. And when I turn around, he puts little spitballs and straws and he shoots them at me. He really seems to hate me. There's something wrong with your child. Let's go to the school psychologist. Maybe they're going to put him on ADHD medication. Put him right in his place, right? Make sure he pays attention. Because I'm sure that young boy is the problem. Not the school system that we all agree, for generations, is shattered. And no one's doing anything to fix it. Because no one could properly articulate the actual problem with the school system. And anyone who can is left out of the public discourse because the unions are very powerful. And this isn't a very pro-school message, but this is the truth. And if you start to do the research and the reading, you can see that this is the truth about why our society is falling apart, why everyone is so dumbed down, in the words of the late, great John Taylor Gatto. By the way, I believe his wife is sick and she needs help, so look into that if you're a charitable person, because John Taylor Gatto left a mark on this world that I believe will one day be appreciated for generations. God bless you, John. So you have Tommy, and school becomes boring, and the teacher didn't allow him to jump from addition and subtraction to multiplication and division. How terrible. Now take our student B. Take Johnny. Remember, Johnny's being homeschooled. And when he gets to second or third grade, he's introduced to addition and subtraction. And just like Tommy, he gets it instantly. After one day, yeah, 8 minus 6, 2. 5 plus 7, 12. He gets it. Johnny gets it. Johnny is not forced to wait for his classmates. So he says, all right, I got this. What's my next challenge? And his mother, his father come up and say, well, you could start looking into multiplication, looking into division. And the very next day, because it's his pace learning, Johnny is working on multiplication and division. He's not bored, he's challenged. He mastered the previous material, so he's proud of himself because he understands instinctively that he is going on an education journey. Not because you're telling him that, but because he's seeking truth and he's discovering it. And because of that, because his ability to move at his own pace, Johnny will be much better at mathematics, possibly be an advanced mathematician by the time he's 18 years old. And our public school student, Tommy, will have a negative relationship with learning and with mathematics. People keep asking why the education system is broken. Do we need more funding? Is it the curriculum? Is it the teachers? Is it school choice? I mean, don't get me wrong, some schools are better than others. I certainly wouldn't want my child to go to a school in an inner city if they could go to a school in a suburb. But the problem still is, the overarching problem is that the school system is broken structurally. It can't be fixed in its present state, especially with powerful teachers unions who would do everything they can to prevent the message I'm giving you from getting out. They care more about their money than they do about the education of their children, and there is no doubt about that. So we as parents need to start educating ourselves on what real education looks like and the problem with the school system and take action to remedy it. Now, I myself, I'm going to be homeschooling my child, 13 months old. I already do homeschool him. I'm going to be homeschooling him for the remainder of his life until he's ready to leave. And by the way, when I say I'll be homeschooling him, he will probably be done with school when he's 13, 14, 15 years old and be an independent, free person making money in the real world. And if you don't believe me, just watch. I have no doubt about that. Because if you study what people have done historically prior to the last 100 years when, and I'll be talking a lot more about this, when the modern school system got implemented, children became adults when they were 12 or 13 years old because they had a skill set that made them capable of interacting successfully in the free market. So I'll be talking a lot about that, the history of this. I'll be talking a lot about what we want for our children, how we can empower them, to what degree we should pressure them, because you'd be surprised. It sounds like I'm pressuring my child, but it's actually the opposite. He'll be the freest child you've ever seen. So the problem with the education system is structural. Now, I'm homeschooling, but you don't have to homeschool. I certainly suggest it. Everyone's situation is different. Or maybe you want them to be in a public school. That's fine as well. People have their reasons. There's certainly no one right way to do things. But by following my channel, by spreading my channel and spreading what I'm doing, I can assist you in understanding proper education of children, understanding the flaws in the school system so that even if your child does attend school, you can take proper action as a parent to remedy where the school is failing so that you can provide your child with the extra knowledge, the extra structure they need in order to thrive. Hey, how's it going, mister? I don't even know how to pronounce that. In my mind, it's always been Lombardi, but I don't think that's right. LBSRDI. You gotta put that out phonetically for me so I can pronounce it. I hope I'm about to end the stream, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you didn't watch it back. Please share this link. Please follow my other channels. I'm going to post them again because I don't know if the new people that come in can see them. I will be posting exclusively from there at some time over the next few months. I have to build up the channel first, obviously. I focused on politics and I got over 4,000 followers, and I want to change the world from a grassroots level. I want to talk about education, but I can't just jump channels. I got to use my leverage that I have to get my followers to my new channel, and then, from there I'll make the proper switch. So, absolutely, I really appreciate that, Joan. Please share this. Tag mothers in it. Tag fathers with young children in it, because I'm going to be talking about education more. I'm buying a whiteboard, by the way. I'm so excited about it, guys. So please share the links. If you did want to support me on Patreon, www.patreon.com/FFRnews, as little as $1 monthly. It helps me do my marketing. It helps me get my things like whiteboards. I'm going to be creating... I'm writing my book right now. At the end of my book, I'm already in talk with homeschoolers. And this is like a year or two out because I need to finish my book first. My plan is to make a documentary on the broken education system, as well as homeschooling, and I need your support to do that. I need backing to do that. I'm going to be interviewing hopefully hundreds of homeschoolers, both prominent and unknown, both parents and children. I'm going to be talking about the history of the education system. This is all down the line, but I really have really exciting plans to, in my opinion, change the world from the grassroots level. So please follow my Facebook page. Please follow my Classical Learner YouTube page. And please share this link. Tag. Oh, wow. Congratulations, Joan. So, Joan, maybe when the time's right, I would love to homeschool, to interview you and maybe your boys as part of a documentary I make. Again, that's probably a year and a half, 2 years down the line, because I'm writing my book right now, but that's the next stage. And in my mind, I have a book, I have a documentary, the creation of a curriculum, and the creation of a kind of a parent's guide program in which parents can access me and possibly a team I put together to assist them in whether it's the homeschooling of their children or even just the education of their children outside of the school system. So please share this link. I really appreciate you tuning in today. As always, power to the individual and long live liberty. All right, guys, thanks. Have a great day. Fun stream.